Let them get ready. And we say together, in gratitude, we offer this incense throughout space and time to all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. May it be fragrant as earth herself, reflecting careful efforts, wholehearted awareness, and the fruit of understanding, slowly ripening. May we and all beings be companions of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. May we awaken from forgetfulness and realize our true home. Well, welcome everyone. Welcome any new people, first timers, people who've been here before, everyone on YouTube and Zoom, welcome. I just wanted to say, especially for new people, just do what you feel is comfortable. Participate with whatever feels comfortable. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. We're going to start by standing up and greeting one another in whatever fashion you feel comfortable doing. We're going to start on page 7. And 3 wet refuges. I go for refuge to the Buddha, my deeply awakened mind, the living source of understanding and compassion, which must be cultivated to be known fully. I go for refuge to Dharma, the path of mindful living, leading to healing, joy, and enlightenment, the way of peace, which must be cultivated to be known fully. I go for refuge to the Sangha, the loving and supportive community of practice, realizing harmony, awareness, and liberation, which must be cultivated to be known fully. I am aware that the 3 jewels are within my heart. I vow to realize them. I vow to understand living beings and their suffering. I vow to cultivate loving kindness and compassion and to practice joy and equanimity. I vow to live simply and sanely, content with few possessions, and to keep my body healthy. I vow to let go of all worry and anxiety in order to be light and free. I am aware that I owe so much to my parents, teachers, friends, and all beings. I vow to be worthy of their trust, to practice wholeheartedly, so that understanding and compassion will flower, and I can help living beings be free from their suffering. May the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha support my efforts. May the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha support my efforts. May the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha support my efforts. Turn to page 8. We will chant the Heart Sutra. Maha Prajna Paramita Hridaya Sutra. The Bodhisattva of great compassion, from the deep practice of Prajna Paramita, perceived the emptiness of all 5 skandhas and delivered all beings from their suffering. O Shariputra, form is no other than emptiness, emptiness no other than form. Form is emptiness, emptiness form. The same is true of feeling, thought, impulse, and consciousness. O Shariputra, all dharmas are empty. They are not born nor annihilated. They are not defiled nor immaculate. They do not increase nor decrease. So in emptiness, no form, no feeling, no thought, no impulse, no consciousness. No eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind. No form, sound, smell, taste, touch, or objects of mind. No realm of sight. No realm of consciousness. No ignorance, nor extinction of ignorance. No old age and death, nor extinction of them. No suffering, no cause of suffering. No cease from suffering, no path lead out of suffering, no knowledge, no attainment, no realization, for there is nothing to attain. The Bodhisattva holds on to nothing but Prajna Paramita. paramita. Therefore, the mind is clear of any delusive hindrance. Without hindrance, there is no fear. Away from all perverted views, one reaches final nirvana. All Buddhas of past, present, and future, through faith in prajna, paramita, attain to the highest perfect enlightenment. Know then the prajna, paramita, is the great Dharani, the radiant fearless mantram, the utmost supreme mantram, which is capable of laying all pain. This is true beyond all doubt. Proclaim now the highest wisdom, the prajna, paramita, gate, gate, paragate, parasamgate, bodhisattva. Gate, gate, paragate, parasamgate, bodhisattva. Gate, gate, paragate, parasamgate, bodhisattva. Dhamma prajna paramita hridaya sutra. Please be seated. Welcome again, everyone, on this crisp Halloween Eve morning. I just wanted to carry on with a tradition my teacher would do, especially with all the, I see quite a few new people here, kind of go through the Heart Sutra a little bit. So prajna paramita just means the wisdom, perfection of wisdom. And the perfection of wisdom is being given by the bodhisattva of compassion, which on my right, the gold statue, that's Kuan Yin or Avalokitesvara, the bodhisattva of compassion. So this just shows that compassion needs to be matched with wisdom in order to have this teaching be conveyed. There needs to be a balance, the middle way. And the last thing we say is the gate, paragate, parasamgate, bodhisvaha, which just means gone, gone beyond the beyond, awake. Woohoo! And so that's just a little teaching from Hung Su. And Hung Su has been... He's doing all right. And I just wanted to say that I am wearing this. We are working on updating our vestments or our robes. So we won't always be wearing this, but I'm wearing this in his honor until we do update those robes. So just a heads up. Today is going to be a little bit of a sombering talk. The title of this talk is Teachings on Dying, Loss, and Grief. We all experience grief at one point or another. I recently had a deep experience with my own grandmother. Last time I gave a talk, she was in the hospital and she was recovering. And now we've had a funeral and everything, and she's since passed. That was on the 11th is when she passed. Which was also Thich Nhat Hanh's birthday. And another thing I thought was kind of a little touch of like impermanence. One of our other teachers here, Kaji Su, she had her baby on the 11th. So it's like birth and death. Uh, they come and they go, and so it's uh it's a tough subject. But since my grandma's passing, I really wanted to. I really delved in the teachings of the Buddha and what he had talked about with grief and grieving. Um, so my grandma, um, I was so close with my grandma. I love her so much. Just remembering all the memories, it can be painful. I've cried a lot. I feel like almost to the point where I have no more tears to be shed, but somehow they do end up welling up. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with crying, or feeling that grief is love in the face of loss. So if we want to get rid of grief, we would have to get rid of love, and that's not what the Buddha taught either. There's that balance between the wing of compassion and the wing of wisdom, and without both, you were not able to fly and continue on. My grandma, she we were expecting, we were gonna have a birthday party for her on the 22nd. That was her birthday, and she was doing so well before her stroke, and it came totally unexpected. But like with death, most of the time it is unexpected, and no matter how long we can prepare, we all know that as soon as we're born, we are going to pass, and that's where most of the Buddhist teachings on impermanence um, can help us try to understand that. But then again, of course, we're going to have that hurt, that loss, that feeling of love. And so the Buddha, in one of the parables that is one of the most famous parables, is that of the mustard seed. And some of you may have heard this, but I would like to share this story about Kisa Gotami. She had her firstborn son. She was loved her son with all of her heart, and one day she found her son unresponsive. He was dead, and she went around and tried to have people heal him and get him to wake up, to be alive again. And one of the people she went to said, "Oh, why don't you go to the Buddha? The Buddha might be able to help you." And so she goes to the Buddha, and the Buddha listens to her and is compassionate, and he's looking and he says, "There may be one way to help your child. I need you to grab a mustard seed from a house, and this can't just be any mustard seed. This has to come from a house where no one has died." So she gets excited. She's hopeful that she can find this mustard seed, and then she starts going from house to house, knocking on each door. And the first house she goes to, "Can I have a mustard seed? I need this mustard seed." And the person at the house says, of course, here." And she's like, "Oh, wait, one more thing. It has to be from a house that no one's passed away." And the person just looks down and says, "My grandma just died. I'm sorry, this won't work." She goes to the next house. She finds out that her father just died, and to the next house, their child died. So she's seeing all these houses. There's no one who has not experienced death or loss, and she's starting to understand. And she goes back to the Buddha, and the Buddha asks her, "So," and she says, "Buddha, I understand now. I need to bury my child and stop carrying him around, and let me become a disciple of you." And there he ordained her, and she became actually the first awakened nun in the teachings. And I think that story goes to show how skillful means, and how the Buddha works with teaching. Because the Buddha could have told her straight out, "No, your child's not going to be able to come back." But she was so grief stricken, she was so hurt, she couldn't understand anything. So he used skillful means, in the sense where he knew that there was no way she was going to find this house where someone hasn't died, to show that everyone experiences death. It's not just us. It's really painful when we experience death immediately. But this teaching shows that we all experience death. So that is one of the stories in the early sutras that talks about grief and dying and loss. There's another one with King Munda, and this is actually a disciple of the Buddha who gives this teaching. The Buddha had many disciples, and each and he everything he taught, he's like, anything I can, if I can be enlightened, I can wake up from this reality. Anyone can. We're human, and we can do this. And there's this disciple named Naranda, and the king, King Munda, was grieving the loss of his wife, and his wife passed away suddenly, and he was just grief stricken. He wouldn't bathe, he wouldn't do his work, he wouldn't do anything. He just was wallowing in his sadness. And one of his attendants told him to talk to a disciple of the Buddha named Naranda, and Naranda gave this teaching to the king. And he says, "Great king, there are 5 things that cannot be had by any ascetic or monk or god or Mara or anyone in the world." What 5? That someone is liable to grow old and should not grow old. That someone is liable to be sick and should not get sick. That someone is liable to death, should not die. And that someone liable to ending should not end. That someone liable to perishing should not perish. An uneducated, ordinary person has someone liable to old age who grows old, but they don't reflect on old age. It's not just me who has someone liable to old age and death. And it goes on. And as he's explaining each of these, sickness, old age, and death, the king is starting to understand. And he finally, instead of, he wanted to put his wife in oil and preserve her body so he could stare and be with her at all times. But he understood that attachment, that craving, was not healthy. He wasn't getting his work done. He wasn't sustainably living. He wasn't showering. He was just so down in the dumps. And that after talking to this monk, he was able to understand that it's not just my wife that'll die, or and being able to bury and grieve and move on, but not move on in the sense that with grief, we can always, there'll always be that love there, but not wallowing in it, trying to find that middle way. Because if you, there's 2 things to grief. You can either bypass it and have it be just say, oh no, I'm going to get over it, I'm not going to think about it, but that's not healthy either. And the same thing with going into the grief so deeply that you are not eating, you're not drinking, you're not showering. So there has to be this honoring of the person that has passed, and not wallowing in that sadness. So the early teachings kind of show us to kind of detach, not in a sense detach, but Buddhism is a living tradition. And later on, I found this, the hidden lamp. There's this story of Sakajo, and she is a disciple of Hakuin, a Japanese monk in the 18th century. And so this is a relatively, compared to like 2,000 years ago, this is more recent. And so I wanted to share this story with you as well. When Sachijo, a great disciple of Hakuin, was old, she lost her granddaughter, which grieved her very much. An old man from the neighborhood came and admonished her. "Why are you wailing so much? If people hear this, they'll say, 'The old lady once studied with Hakuin and was enlightened, so now why is she mourning her granddaughter so much? You ought to lighten up a bit. Sakujo glared at her neighbor and scolded him. "You bald-headed fool, what do you know? My tears and weeping are better for my granddaughter than incense, flowers, and lamps." And the old man left without a word. And I think this goes to show that there's a place to weep. There's a place to grieve. And when you lose a child or a grandchild or anyone that you're close to, a pet, and loss isn't just subject to people or or animals, but losing a job, losing a relationship. We all have this grief of losing something. And there's one last story I think of with when the Buddha passed away. Many monks they cried, and there's a passage where it says that it's like their legs were cut off and they were rolling and they were just distraught with anguish. And the Buddha's foremost disciple, why am I forgetting his name? Started with an M.
So Mike?
That's not Mike. That's not Mike.
It's just a guess. I don't know.
Mahakashapa. Thank you. Mahakashapa. You're very close.
That's close. That's close. I don't know anything.
Laughter is the best medicine. But Mahakashapa, I don't know. He told the monks, "What you remember what the Buddha taught? Whatever is subject to coming is also subject to dissolution. And so why grieve? Why cry? Why when that's not going to do anything to bring him back?" And so that's another of the older sutras where it says that to kind of just an enlightened person doesn't grieve, but we're human beings and we do grieve. And the story of the grandmother Sakujo really goes to show that we have this tender heart. If we want to get rid of grief, we would also have to get rid of love. And love and compassion is one of the Buddha's foremost teachings. And there's this teacher named Domo Burke, and she came up with this idea that grief could possibly be a fifth immeasurable. So we have the four immeasurables, which is loving kindness, compassion, equanimity, and sympathetic joy and equanimity is the fourth one. And having grief be the fifth, and integrating grief into our practice. Even in psychology, they Elizabeth Kubler-Ross has the stages of grief of denial, anger, bargaining, and depression and acceptance. And then there was another one of her students added the sixth one, which is finding meaning in your loss. And I think if we can work with this in our practice, really feeling the grief, understanding that we all are going to lose someone we love, and not getting caught up in the what ifs of, oh, I should have called them more, or I should have done this, or I should have done this, but remembering the love you have for that person, the good memories you have. The practices we have of mindfulness, the tools that the Buddha has given us of really being with this feeling, just like in many other sutras. And when you feel sadness, feel the sadness. When you feel happy, feel feel happy, feel the joy. And so when you're feeling grief, feel the grief. Don't try to push it away. Don't try to suffocate it. But really, that helps with the process of feeling this this heavy weight of just sadness, anger, bargaining, all the stages, and each one it's not just it's not linear. They can all come and go, or each person experiences grief differently too. So it's not a one cure. And so the Buddha, he's teaching, he meets the person where they're at. So with Kisa and the mustard seed, she needed to go and see the people firsthand and experience that connection of loss. And with the king and Naranda, he needed to see okay, we're all be explained, we all get sick, we all get old, and we're all going to die one day. And then with that old man and Sokujo, he needed to hear that it's okay to grieve. I mean, each person has a different understanding of reality, and each person has different experiences. So, with mindfulness, that the practice of mindfulness and working with our own grief and our own depression and our own loss, sitting and being mindful, breathing with the grief, uh, and feeling it deeply, and setting aside time to feel that grief, and being with your breath, and breathing out and breathing back and breathing in, and just really holding it with compassion. Like Thich Nhat Hanh says, holding your anger with like a baby, hold your grief like a baby. Don't smother it, don't push it away, but hold it tenderly. And there's other practices, like ritual. There's a lot of ritual in Buddhism, and dealing with the loss of a loved one, and making your own ritual, maybe finding a sacred space, or an altar, or somewhere in your house where you can put up their picture, have their name, give an offering of their favorite foods, or sit and share some memories, and really feel the grief, because we are human beings, and the emotions and everything are meant to be felt and released. Um, and I'm not saying you release everything, but if you hold them, or if you try to block them out, they'll come out at crazy times that you're not expecting. So having a time set aside to really process your grief, to process loss, to process this feeling that is really difficult to feel. It's difficult to talk about, and so it's good to have a community, sangha, to get together, um, do a memorial service, anything that can really help the process. And so with grieving, I'd like to end with this gatha by Thich Nhat Hanh that has always touched me, and it goes like this: This body is not me. I am not limited by this body. We are life without boundaries. We have never been born, and we have never died. Look at the ocean and the sky filled with stars, manifestations from a wondrous true mind. Since before time we have been free. Birth and death are only doors through which we pass, sacred thresholds on our journey. Birth and death are a game of hide and seek. So laugh with me. Hold my hand. Let us say goodbye. Say goodbye to meet again soon. We meet today. We meet again tomorrow. We meet at the source every moment. We meet each other in all forms of life. Thank you. And prepare for meditation. And we bow. Waking up. Before we get into announcements, there was a reading I wanted to share with you guys that I slipped my mind. And this comes from the Sutra of the Connected Discourses of the Buddha on Impermanence. For a long time, monks, you have experienced the death of a son, the death of a daughter, the loss of relatives, the loss of wealth, the loss through illness. As you have experienced this, weeping and wailing because of being united with the disagreeable and separated from the agreeable. The stream of tears that you have shed is more than the water in the four great oceans. For what reasons? Because, monks, this samsara is without discoverable beginning. It is enough to experience revulsion towards all formations, enough to become dispassionate towards them, enough to be liberated from them. And that reading and just reminding ourselves that this present moment is precious. Call your grandma, call your loved ones, spend as much time as you can with them, and really spread love and compassion and kindness wherever you go. So, and now we're on to announcements. For details about November events, you can visit our website at zengr.org. We have a Radical Dharma book club the first Wednesday of each month, and that's you can join via Zoom. And then our board meeting is every fourth Sunday of each month, and that I think that'll be changing in the new year, but well, that'll come down the line. We also have Buddhist-based recovery meetings Mondays at the temple, and we're working on the Zoom link, and we'll get an updated Zoom link soon. Wednesdays at the Alano Club, and then Fridays at the temple in the morning. And just a heads up, to be daylight savings times ends Sunday, November 6th. So don't forget to set your clocks back 1 hour Saturday night. So next Saturday, we'll have to be doing that. And if anyone is wondering about Lojong, the full moon meditation practice, we have decided to stop that for now until the new year, or maybe in spring. But we just don't have enough volunteers to do that. So regularly. And last, any other announcements from? Oh, yes. He's got a mic for you.
Hi, my name is Ellen. I'm here to talk about Dana, which is a big part of our practice. Dana means generosity. Generosity comes in all forms. If you bring toilet paper to the temple, hand sanitizer, if you join a committee for fundraising, all that comes into generosity. Also, we're talking about monetary, of course, which helps pay the bills here. No one attached to this temple gets a paycheck. Everything happens because somebody has donated money, time, or goods. If you're here at the temple and you would like to and are willing to donate some money, we have a Dana box in the back, and we have one right on the other side of the curtains. You can also go to our website, zengr.org, and you can make a one-time donation. You can set it up monthly as well. If you are watching on YouTube today, there's a little drop down arrow in the lower right hand portion of your screen that will also take you to a donate button. I'm not sure if it takes you to the temple or to a straight donate, but you'll find out. It took me forever to find it. To the website. Okay. Also, if you are a shopper and you use Amazon, Amazon Smile lets you designate the temple to receive a very small portion at no cost to you to go to the temple. And then you're notified, I think it's on a quarterly basis, to tell you how much money has actually gone to the temple because of all that silverware you bought. So that's really cool. I think I covered everything. So thank you. Morning.
I'm no. I checked where the boundary is. Good morning. My Dharma name is Poshi. My given name is Jan Ensing. I serve on the board of directors as president and secretary, and I'm here to share with you the results of the vote to amend the articles of incorporation, the ones that you voted on last week. There were 41 votes with 38 yes and 3 no. So we are now known as the Grand Rapids Buddhist Temple. Thank you for all of those who took the time to vote.
All right, if we have no more announcements, we'll stand and do the closing gathas found on page 9. All right, we say together. For all unskillful actions ever committed by me since of old, on account of my beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and thoughts, now I atone for it all. Vast is the robe of compassion, a formless field of benefaction. I wear the Buddhist teachings for the benefit of all sentient beings. All beings, one body, I vow to liberate. Endless blind passion, I vow to uproot. Dharma gates without number, I vow to penetrate. The great way of Buddha, I vow to attain. If we split in the middle, we can bow to each other. All right, thank you guys for being here. If you just put away the booklets, you can leave the mats out. And I think, we have,
Oh, yeah, I'm doing.
do they have cleaning? Do we have